Perhaps it is only in childhood that books have any deep influence on our lives. In later life, we admire, we are entertained, we may modify some views we already hold, but we are more likely to find in books merely a confirmation of what is in our minds already. As in a love affair, it is our own features that we see reflected flatteringly back. But in childhood, all books are books of divination, telling us about the future, and like the fortune teller who sees a long journey in the cards or death by water, they influence the future. I suppose that is why books excited us so much. What do we ever get nowadays from reading to equal the excitement and the revelation in those first 14 years? Of course, I should be interested to hear that a new novel by Mr. E. M. Forster was going to appear this spring, but I could never compare that mild expectation of civilized pleasure with the missed heartbeat, the appalled glee I felt when I found on the library shelf a novel by Rider Haggard, Percy Westerman, Captain Brereton, or Stanley Weyman which I had not read before. It is in those early years that I would look for the crisis, the moment when life took a new slant in its journey towards death. I remember distinctly the suddenness with which a key turned in a lock and I found I could read. Not just the sentences in a reading book with the syllables coupled like railway carriages, but a real book. It was paper covered with the picture of a boy, bound and gagged, dangling at the end of a rope inside a well, with the water rising above his waist. An adventure of Dixon Brett, detective. All a long summer holiday I kept my secret, as I believed. I did not want anybody to know that I could read. I suppose I half-consciously realized even then that this was the dangerous moment. I was safe so long as I could not read. The wheels had not begun to turn. But now the future stood around on bookshelves everywhere, waiting for the child to choose. The life of a chartered accountant, perhaps. A colonial civil servant. A planter in China. A steady job in a bank. Happiness and misery. Eventually one particular form of death. For surely we choose our death much as we choose our job. It grows out of our acts and our evasions, out of our fears and out of our moments of courage. I suppose my mother must have discovered my secret, for on the journey home I was presented for the train with another real book, a copy of Ballantyne's Coral Island, with only a single picture to look at, a coloured frontispiece. But I would admit nothing. All the long journey I stared at the one picture and never opened the book. But there on the shelves at home, so many shelves, for we were a large family, the books waited. One book in particular, but before I reach that one down, let me take a few others at random from the shelf. Each was a crystal in which the child dreamed that he saw life moving. Here, in a cover stamped dramatically in several colours, was Captain Gilson's The Pirate Aeroplane. I must have read that book 6 times at least. The story of a lost civilization in the Sahara and of a villainous Yankee pirate with an aeroplane like a box kite and bombs the size of tennis balls, who held the Golden City to ransom. It was saved by the hero, a young subaltern who crept up to the pirate camp to put the aeroplane out of action. He was captured and watched his enemies dig his grave. He was to be shot at dawn, and to pass the time and keep his mind from uncomfortable thoughts, the amiable Yankee pirate played cards with him. The mild nursery game of Coon Khan. The memory of that nocturnal game on the edge of life haunted me for years, until I set it to rest at last in one of my own novels with a game of poker, played in remotely similar circumstances. And here is Sophie of Crevonia by Anthony Hope, the story of a kitchen maid who became a queen. One of the first films I ever saw, about 1911, was made from that book, and I can hear still the rumble of the Queen's guns crossing the high Crevonian pass beaten hollowly out on a single piano. Then there was Stanley Weyman's The Story of Francis Cludd, and above all other books at that time of my life, King Solomon's Mines.